Hey everyone, welcome back to the LaceUp with Mickey podcast. Today, I have Carlos from Edda's Cake Company and Gulfstream Distributors. How you doing?
Hey Mickey, how are you?
Excellent. Edda's Cake Company is one of the top dessert cake manufacturers in the southern eastern part of the United States. They make some of my favorite desserts, so it's a true honor to have you here on the show.
Thank you very much.
Well, the way I start these interviews traditionally, Carlos, is we take back the listener to the beginning of the company, right? I did some research about your mom, Edda. So I'd like for you to tell us how the idea came about and how the story became a reality.
Well, you know, in much of our history of our company, as well as our family, necessity is the mother of invention. And so back in 1978, my mother was a homemaker. She had a couple little side businesses that she had. And she was pregnant with a third kid, and she had to go back to work. And she had taken a cake decorating class, and they had offered her a job. She was a natural. She was an artist, and she was a baker, and she was a natural. And they offered her to teach the class. Mm-hmm. So she started teaching, and just as a side hustle type of thing at nights. And from there, she just started taking orders. And from there, her business took off. It was little by little at first. It was a nice little second income where she could stay out of the house. And she grew her business one client at a time. Fast forward about 6 or 7 years later, and my house is full of cakes. And then in 91, she had to leave the house. It was gotten too big. And she opened her store around there, 91 or 92, her first store. Okay. I was in high school and college. Once I started driving, I was doing all her deliveries, and for me, it was a nice way to pay for my car. And then I went to college, and I went on to different career on my own, and I came back and invested in the business, and with my wife and my sister, and we opened up our second, third, and fourth stores.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a teenager, paying for your car, delivering for your mom, and I mean, at what point in that process did you know Edda's Cake was going to become what it is now? Like, did you know it was going to be this successful, or did you just think it was like your mom saying? At what point did you say this is?
I think it was after she opened her first store, because when she first was going to open the store. From the house, we didn't have that vision. It was just she had to leave the house, and so it was. Her store was open, and it was really unique at the time. That kind of bakery. It wasn't your traditional bakery where you got bread and coffee and things like that. This was, high-end cakes from all kinds of wedding cakes, and the whole cake business, the whole decorations went from all kind of plastic stuff to all things made, sort of high art by sugar and fondant and all that stuff. And so as I was in my other career, which was in the beer distribution, I was getting to see a wider aspect of South Florida and Florida. I'm like, man, this is something that can do better, do well in other markets. And so we did a business plan, my siblings and I, and we started and we invested our first store and see how it goes. Kept my job while we were doing that, and it went well. We hit sort of our break-even point within, on our third month. And so from there, things evolved. We had the hotels started including wedding cakes in their packages. So I went and started working with all the different hotels and getting our cakes known. And we had, her name was, building, and things evolve. And finally in 2008 or so, we had started selling the bundt cakes in our stores, and those were starting to do well. And we invested and did some really nice packaging, and we took it to the supermarkets, and that did really well. And by 2011, Publix brought it in, and after that, one of our supermarkets asked us if we did any kind of decorated cakes, and we did some for our stores, of course. But we didn't have it really packaged for the supermarket. So I was like, yes, of course we do. And called my mother and go, hey, meet me at our plant, and let's work on this. I have a meeting in 3 weeks. So we really worked on the line, did the presentation. He loved it, and we started working with a small chain of about 4 grocery stores. and I was really shocked as to how well that did. And then, you know, we had the recession, and there was some tough times as well. So once we kind of got through all that and expansion, because every time you grow in one area of the business, before you know, you got to invest in all the others. Mm-hmm. And so we went ahead and really expanded the line, really made it professional looking with our, you know, packaging and our labeling.
And that was after the recession?
That was all after the recession. Yeah, so when the recession was right around when we launched our bundt cakes. And so it was a few years after, because we had to keep investing, and obviously the recession hurt everyone.
So I want to touch upon that. I mean, so the recession comes, and was the labeling a result of the recession because you had to step your game up, or you just wanted to make the packaging look better, or was it a combination?
No, it was really the recession was well past at that point. It was more about you know, we had 4 stores and I had to make it more professional, and we were doing it in small batches. So, you know, we had seen a lot of the equipment and a lot of the tools that we needed, and we had the facilities, and just do one step at a time. You know, we also were still very much involved in retail, and we had other businesses and other things to pay attention to. So we just had to step up our game, and so we went ahead and designed. We had a designer on staff, and we designed a lot of that stuff in-house. And, you know, I hadn't even printed it when I pitched it to Winn-Dixie supermarkets and Sedano's and some of those. So I literally went with the one we printed. We cut it out with our scissors and we presented it, and they liked it. They brought it in, and that's when I went and put the order in for all the labels. And now we're in about 80 stores with, you know, combined with our cold stuff, plus another 80 stores in Publix. Publix has their own sort of frozen dessert, so they don't do any of the frozen line, but they do some of our products, like our cupcakes, our assorted gourmet cupcakes. Mm-hmm. We have one right here, and they brought that in last year. So,
well, the crazy thing is the parallels. Anytime you look at these businesses, we do things so similar, because half the time the customer comes to us and asks us for a product and we don't have it. Mm-hmm. But we go, if it's a big customer specifically, we go, yeah, we have it.
Right.
And they sign the contract, and as they're signing it, we're building it out, getting that minimum viable product ready to give to them.
Right.
Then they test it and normally work out all the bugs in those first couple weeks, and boom, we have the product and we close the deal. What I see a lot of businesses do is that sometimes they don't take the risk, right? Of just jumping in, saying, yeah, I got it, doing it. And they miss out on a tremendously huge opportunity.
Right.
So the minimum viable product is something that's super important for businesses, and I think without that, today LaceUp wouldn't exist.
That's right.
And in addition to that, one more parallel. My uncle, when he went and sold his first deal, just like you with these labels, he didn't even have a name for the company. He cold called the customer, says, "Here's what I have." Customer goes, "What's it called?" He goes, "I don't know." Had no company name, had nothing.
Right.
But okay, fast forward past minimum viable product. Now we have a real business. I'm going to list out some of the products that you guys offer, so that the listener gets some context, right? You do cupcakes, bundt cakes, cake pops, custom cakes, dessert cakes, cheesecakes, and assorted mini desserts, like a bunch of different mini desserts. I'm looking through a list of products, and my stomach just starts rumbling. Mm-hmm. I mean, because I'm a huge fan of these cakes. For those of you that have never had these cakes, please go online immediately, order yourself. And this isn't a plug because they're paying me or something like that. I'm telling you, these are the best cakes in the world. But okay, so now I kind of want to segue into the locations, right? You said you've got a couple stores, retail locations.
Sure. Yes.
Can you tell the listener where they're at?
Sure. So we actually ended up closing one of the stores because things changed. You know, the internet changed the whole retail aspect, because now everything is online. And so before, we would ask everybody, you know, if you want a custom cake, come on in. And we still like them to come on in because they could do the tasting, and, you know, especially for brides, it's a big event. But really with the internet now, and we already have an established clientele, a lot of them can look at our albums online. And so we have one in South Miami around Bird Road, and the other one is in the Doral, and then we have one in Broward in Pembroke Pines.
Okay.
And so you mentioned our product line, right? So a lot of our product line is geared just to our stores. So a lot of those, like mini desserts, everything changes. And interesting what you said. Really what you're doing is you're listening to your customers. What do they need? And then, you're not doing it. Hey, but we can do it. And so hence you do it. That's what happened when we had our Milam stores. Hey, we could do that, and we'll do it for you. We're local. We have a brand name, and it's up our alley or in our alley, right? Same thing with LaceUp, right? And so, you got to evolve your company. You can't just sit still. You got to always be thinking of what's the next thing, particularly in a company like yours, like technology, but in a cake company as well. So we have a product line that's geared specifically to our stores. Our custom stuff, our mini stuff. There's certain things that just don't do well in the supermarket, like cakepops. That's not something that you're going to pre-package, and people like them sort of custom and different colors and flavors. And so that's what our stores are for. And and then our wholesale brand, I think, helps our brand in general. And when they find out a little bit about our company and they're down here in South Florida, they can visit one of our stores. Also, it's funny because sometimes you get lucky, right? And you happen to be at the right place at the right time. So we have this Milam store, and we have our bun cakes in there. And this was around 6 years ago, 2013. I get an email on our website from our website about fundraising. And I didn't know anything about fundraising other than selling chocolates as a kid. So I invite the guy over, and I'm not thinking, how are you going to sell bun cakes door to door, for a kid? And he told me this whole thing about pre-sale, and we started working it. Turns out our bun cakes that are vacuum packed and therefore shelf stable was perfect for the fundraising sector. And so now we sell about 150, 200, mostly South Florida, but we've also done others in the state of Florida and even in Texas and Louisiana, where we sell our bun cakes to schools. They get to keep a good percentage for their fundraiser, and they love it because you don't have to freeze it, and you don't have to occupy space in the freezer, and they get a good return on their fundraiser, and it's great for us. So it's a bunch of now other people finding out about our company, and then many times we get our clients in our stores because they bought it through a fundraiser.
That's awesome. And I think people don't realize that that's how most businesses get made, right? When you run a business, there's two components of demand for things, right? First, you have what you want to build as a company, your goals as a company, but then you have what the marketplace demands of you, right? And you're constantly battling between these two things, and at times the customer proposes such a brilliant idea that you just have to do it, even if it's at the expense of what your goals are as a company. And this happens to us almost on a weekly basis. You come in with your strategy, you're like, okay, that's where I want to go, but then a customer comes in with this huge idea, you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting that, right? And boom, just like that, the business changes. And for those of you listening, that's why it's so important that you guys, that you get your business to a point where you have enough customers so that they can start giving you input on the product. Because once you have that and you can iterate on that product, then eventually you end up coming up with a product that actually sells extremely well in the marketplace. And as a result, you end up with a business that's even more successful. So that's awesome that this fundraising avenue provided such a huge business opportunity.
And it came because he saw it in the supermarket. And
that's unbelievable.
Our slogan in our stores is your wish is our creation, because it's a custom product, right? So it's all about the customer and their party. And so everyone in the company is trained on, hey, give the customer what they want. We got to consult them, of course, and what's possible, and they're looking for ideas as well. But it's all about their party. And something that changed in our business was, it used to be where, and throughout history, all kinds of cakes is like clothes. The designs changed, And so it started turning from these big cutout type parties on mirrors and stuff to, more tiered cakes, and then the tiers started getting thinner and taller. And then parties started changing. They wanted sort of dessert tables. And we noticed that cakes were getting smaller because they were getting desserts. So we started a whole line of little mini desserts, because that seems to be, the trend these days, is little finger foods that people like to have. And so we have a great line of mini desserts and mini cheesecakes and things like that enhance the party. So they don't want to just put a cake on a table, they want to surround it with all kinds of other goodies.
Yeah, and something that I want to touch upon with your product is, when I go into a supermarket, okay, I look at your product and it's such a higher quality than everyone else's product in there. that I think you're able to charge whatever price you want, right? I think the fact that you sell such a high quality product enables you to charge the price. I mean, you're your own, you make your own pricing. Like honestly, I would go in and buy your cake at any price. Obviously, there's a threshold, I'm sure, for other consumers, but for me, I mean, I look at that product and I'm like, shoot, if I were to go get a cake custom made, right, and it cost me X number of dollars, it probably wouldn't even be as good as this. So you've gotten to a point where you've reached economies of scale with a product that's extremely premium. So I want you to talk to the consumer, to the listener, how did you get your product to such a point where it's so beautiful, it's such high quality? Like, what are the processes behind the scenes that got you to that point?
Well, again, you got to go with sort of what you got, and we had retail stores that we were sort of premium high-end designers. I guess it's part of our family's DNA. We don't take we want to be different. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of bakeries out there that all pretty much do more or less the same thing, coffee, bread, and it's all good and they're great, but we want it to be different, and we started from that perspective. And then of course, you have a premium retail stores. You don't want to have a below premium product in the supermarket. So that was very important, that the packaging was there, the quality of the product was there, so everything was there. So it had to go hand in hand because we have a premium brand, and you got to across the board, whether it's in fundraising, wholesale or retail, it's got to be consistent. And so, we went and made sure, and we got a good design agency, for example, for our bun cakes. I mean, when they took a photo, that photo shoot day for that, I mean, the guy's lens was this big, really big, and it wasn't cheap. But if you're gonna make the right premium product, you got to put the right investment in it, and back it up. So not only that, our display pieces have to be nice, and again, I think it's part of our DNA just to be a little bit different. You have to be a little bit different than everybody else to stand out.
Yeah, and to give you guys a parallel or an analogy, Edda's cake, in my opinion, is it's like Apple, right? You look at an Apple product and you look at an Android, and the Apple product is just way better looking, right? When you touch it, it feels better. In your case, when you taste it, it tastes better.
Thanks. You sound like our designers.
Yeah, yeah. And but as a consumer, you've conveyed that to me through the product, and it's unbelievable.
Sure.
That's something that as a business we haven't been able to achieve, right? The way we've been able to be so successful is through good service.
Yes.
Now, at this point in our life cycles, when we're finally able to dedicate time to user experience, design, right? Making it more friendly, making it a higher quality design. So I wanted to ask you, did you have to get to a certain point in your life cycle to be able to focus on those things? Like, at what point did you say, okay, we're going to start focusing on making this beautiful design? Or was it always from the beginning? Is that the ethos of your company? Or did that come about after you were making a profit?
I think it's from our ethos of our company, because when we were developing, we started doing the bun cakes in our stores, and we're like, wow, this is an interesting, and that came about interesting. Now I'm thinking about it. Is we have our signature flavor for our company is a vanilla rum. It's a very unique flavor, and customers were putting in orders. Hey, I don't want the frosting. I just want the cake without the frosting. And we're like, it looks so ugly like that. I hated selling a product so ugly. We're a design company, and we liked something pretty. So we're like, hey, why don't we do? That's how the bun cake first. So we bought some pans and we started selling it. And our first holidays, we sort of did a holiday design. We first didn't do it without the icing. And then the following month, we go, hey, let's try with the icing, see if that changes the sales. Like triple. Because there's something about that icing, the way it drips, right? It kind of activates the saliva glands. Yeah. And so that was key when we did the photography, to make sure that it was perfectly, find that perfect drip. And so then, you have challenges. How do you get it into the supermarket? Where are you going to put it? Refrigerated spaces at a premium, it's got to last. And it probably took about a good year and a half to kind of figure it out. And I had to go back to learning chemistry to figure out how to get it to last. So I learned all about something called modified atmosphere packaging, where they vacuum out all the air out of the cake, and then you got to put in sort of like a CO2 nitrogen mix so the cake doesn't collapse on itself. But really, it's to prevent any kind of mold. Mm-hmm. And learn all about that chemistry stuff and how pH works, and I hated chemistry as a kid. So there I was with a pH meter measuring all these different things, and it took about the whole process took about a year and a half. It takes a long time. to get a product to the marketplace and get it lab tested and all that. And then with the hope that they're going to buy it. And you mentioned you sort of go with the plan, and then you veer off. I tell a lot of people, go where you're going to end up is not necessarily where you think you are, but if you don't take that chance, you won't go anywhere. So,
and that's unbelievable because like when I started here, I had no skills, none. I'm talking, my uncle plucked me out of college and inserted me into this business. No training manual, no help. Go for it.
Right.
So in addition to having to learn the product, I had to learn something about development, marketing, sales, all these different skills. And that's what's important as an entrepreneur, as a person who runs a business. You have to constantly be reinventing yourself. Because if you don't reinvent yourself, it's crazy because you reflect 100% on the business. And that's what people don't realize. Like, you reflect on the culture, you reflect on the vision, on the mission, on the mission statement, on everything. So you have to constantly be evolving, learning new skills, and when you do that, you end up, it's crazy, and I've realized this, I'm 29 now, but I've realized this year, you end up becoming a completely different person, right? You started as one type of person, right? And my fiance can attest to this. I used to be all about the money. Oh, what can I, money, right? I thought that would be the happiness, what would get me to happiness, but I start getting into the business, I start failing, I start learning the formula of what it takes to succeed and the person that I have to become to succeed, right? And I start learning some of those skills. And boom, fast forward 5-6 years later, I'm a completely different person. And the business, as a result, is a different person.
Right.
So I think that's the best tip. I think if anyone's listening to this, if they can get one thing out of this podcast, out of this video, it's the fact that you have to constantly be learning skills, even if you don't like them, even if you want nothing to do with them. You have to learn them. That way you can implement them into your business, and more importantly, that way you get a grasp of what's going on.
Sure.
Because sometimes you delegate stuff off to someone else, and then you say, no, he's the chemist.
Right.
But the chemist doesn't necessarily have the same interests as a business owner.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times, you have to kind of learn. You have to just go through the process. I know more things about, air compression systems than I ever thought I even wanted to know, but you have to learn it, and you can't just delegate 100%. Yeah, you can, but a lot of times what I found is you got to kind of pioneer it. And then later on, once it's sort of in motion, then you could start delegating the tasks, but then nobody could give you any kind of BS either, right? So you now understand. It's like giving it to a mechanic and your car to a mechanic and you don't know what's going on. It's good to get a little educated so that nobody can give you any kind of BS later.
Well, and now let's say with that concept into marketing, right? Obviously you started with the stores, then you did distribution, but now you have a heavy presence online.
Right.
So for those of you that don't know, what's your Instagram handle, by the way? So we can plug that.
What is our Instagram? Edda's Cake Design.
Yeah, and I'll link it as well. But they have 13,000 followers or so.
Right.
And they post beautiful images of these cakes.
Yeah.
But at what point did you realize that was going to be the next wave of business for you?
I'm going to say about 5 years ago. We started doing maybe more. I don't remember exactly. But, traditionally we would advertise originally our retail stores in bridal magazines. Our philosophy there is, we work with a lot of the hotels, because now if you want to be in the wedding business, in the cake business, you better be in the wedding cake business. And for you to be in the wedding cake business, the gatekeepers of that are the hotels. If you're not one of their approved vendors, you're out of it. So we really focused heavily on creating our brochures and we give them all like an album where these are the cakes that are included in their package, and really made a focus on getting in with the venues and the hotels and the caterers. So that was the beginning of our marketing efforts, and then we would advertise in the bridal magazines. From there, we feel that sort of the bride is that's the entry level customer. Before that, the parents are buying it, and the bride is an entry level for family, right? They're going to start having children later on, and then you have all kinds of birthdays and religious events and graduations, and we've done wedding cakes for 3 generations at this point: grandmother, mother, and granddaughter, right? So we've done several generations. So once you get the customer in, you really want to kind of hopefully keep them for life, right? So that was our retail stores, that was our philosophy there. And then use the name brand that we had into the supermarkets. And as far as social media is concerned, about things started changing with the internet, and the internet just changed everything. Our philosophy just every year seemed to be changing, and we had to upgrade our websites, just constantly looking. And then social media started getting really big. About 2 years ago, so we were doing good. We were posting all the time. We post daily, multiple times sometimes. Instagram, Facebook are probably our two biggest. We got a big celebrity wedding, right? Gucci Mane. Are you familiar with Gucci Mane? So they came, he wanted to have a 10-foot tall wedding cake at the Ritz-Carlton, and they were going to shoot it on a TV show. And so, we did that cake, and when that came out, I think we picked up so many followers. It was crazy, because it was just a cake that had to be cut with a sword, and they had it, covered in Swarovski crystals, and I mean, just over the top. It was crazy. Tallest cake we've ever delivered, ever. 10 feet on top of the table. So we needed to bring ladders to get the top pieces on top of on the top. And so when that came out, and then they put it out the news, and we came on the show, we got a lot of followers there. And you keep them, and they multiply, and you just got to be posting all the time.
And do you see that those posts, do they lead to any sales online?
Yeah, I mean, I can't attribute them direct most of the time, but yeah, certainly. Now we're actually even getting in with online ordering, and we ship our bundt cakes across the United States, and now we're doing online ordering where people can order a lot of our stuff. Not the custom stuff, and even some custom stuff, but we do a lot of that. We also have a big email list, so we send a lot of emails as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's the next wave, right? As a millennial.
Yeah.
At some point along the way, I found that those of my age and those coming after me, so people younger than me, they no longer wanted to go somewhere in person to buy things, right?
Sure.
And what I realized, especially with my little sisters, I've got one that's 15 and one that's 18, or about to be 18. And they spend their entire day on Instagram. You look over their shoulder, and this is all they're doing. Instagram, and then when they're not on Instagram, they're on YouTube.
Yeah.
And when they're not, and when they're not on YouTube, now they're on something called TikTok.
I heard about that.
Yeah, those are the big three now.
Yeah.
And TikTok's kind of supplanted Snapchat now.
Yes.
But the reason, my motivation for doing this type of content is because no one in our industry is doing it, right? No one in our industry. I don't know of any other cake companies here that do what you do, distribute to these retail locations. I don't know of any other one with that dominance on social media.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good to be the first one,
Right.
right? So I think that there's a huge opportunity. If you continue to do that, you're going to have a monopoly.
Well, we have a new idea, because one of the things that brides love, and it's become like a really big thing, and it's tough for us because we have a lot of things going on, but is the bridal tasting when they come in to do their appointment. And it's hard when you're doing a bunch of tastings a day to get excited for everybody, but we're always talking about that. Hey, it's their first experience. And so now we're actually in the process of we're having a project where we're gonna photograph them, and we want them to put it on their social media, all about their tastings, and make a nice little sign, and make it an experience, and where we can kind of share links, and a lot of it's about sharing links with people, and we give them a card after every event. Hey, post a review. I'll mention something about reviews, because reviews are they can hurt you and they can help you, right? The problem with it, especially in a custom world, is there's a lot of interpretive. You put your order, gets interpreted, then the designer, decorator, they have to interpret it, and you hope you please them. Most of the time you get it right. Problem is that the happy customers are not motivated to review as much as the unhappy customer. Unhappy customers are extremely motivated. So you have to ask 20 people to get one review, right? It's very difficult to get people to review. So we have these cards that we give them. Here's our name. Hey, if you ever need anything, call me. Hey, give us a review if you're on these sites, post on social media. So you have to constantly be asking your customers to do it, because it really helps. Because they send us messages and they tell us how much they like the cakes. We want them to tell the world and post it on their sites. So you have to ask for those. You have to proactively ask.
And now, in addition to the marketing that you're doing, right, and your plans for marketing, what are your plans in the next couple of years for the business? Like, what are you doing to expand? What can you disclose with the listener?
Well, as a distributor, so we're Edda's Cake Company, and we started distributing our cakes. We didn't like any of the options for distribution, and of course, I had some history there, and so we were able to control our brand and grow it by nurturing it ourselves. And along the way, we had other companies that had different types of products that needed distribution. So hence we start Gulfstream Distributors. So we have some opportunities that have come our way via the distribution model. We also want to expand across the state with our wholesale products and go up to Orlando. And we've made some forays up there, but we haven't put all the emphasis that we wanted. We want to now go up towards the rest of the state and fundraise and keep growing that. As far as our retail stores, we're happy with the 3 stores that we have. It takes a lot of work. Thankfully, I have a good family. My mom is involved still to this day, and my sister and my wife. My daughter's now even involved. So it's a true family business, and so we still do that. We still have our hotels, but we have no plans on opening any other stores. But really, our emphasis is on continuing to do what we're doing. And if there's a right product, we'll invent it. But we're happy with what we got. We have a great line of decorated cakes of all different flavors. We're going to be doing some stuff there, but no big initiatives there. We do a big thing with our assorted cupcakes. We got that line going, and our bun cakes, of course. And that's pretty much what we got going. Do more of what we got, of what we do now.
Yeah, and that's a formula for success,
Yeah.
right? You keep repeating the same thing for a lot of years, and eventually, next thing you know, you're the biggest person in the market.
Yeah. And still adapt.
Yeah.
I think also there's something about just kind of going to work every day. If you go to work every day, it's amazing. Over time, keep doing it. Stick to it.
Yeah, and that's something that I've realized after only 6 years. I could imagine when I get to your position.
Imagine if you're doing this for 10 more years,
Yeah.
you'll be,
That'd be
dominating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we get off and before we say goodbye, I'd like for you to plug your website in case anybody
Sure.
wants to check out your cakes. What's the website?
Yeah, so we're eddascakedesigns.com. That's for our retail stores. We have eddascakecompany.com. We also have Edda's Cakes Online. And, we're a South Florida-based company. We also, we do fundraisers. So if you have a school or organization, we've had a lot of success. The schools have a lot of success because they get to raise a lot of money. And that's pretty much, our company. You can find us in Publix, Winn-Dixie, Milam, Sedano's, and other, fine retailers across South Florida, and hopefully soon in Orlando and Tampa.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
And thank you, the listener, for tuning into this episode. We look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care.